Hello and welcome back to Desert DIY. If you are new here, my name is Corey. Today is the Ugly Duckling Challenge for December of 2022, and the theme is the spirit of giving. I'm going to be totally repurposing these table bases from a Duncan 5 style dining table into two side tables. And since the theme of this Ugly Duckling Challenge is the spirit of giving, I will be donating these pieces to a local shop that sells pieces in order to help our community out with food, elderly services, and so much more. The first thing that I need to do to turn these two table bases from one dining table into two side tables is to measure the diameter that I'm going to need to build. I want to make round tops and turn them into a drum shape for the tops of each of these side tables. So I'm just measuring out those sizes that I need, which was about 32 inches, and I'm cutting out squares in that size, and then I will turn those squares into circles. I'm going to cut out these two square shapes with my skill saw, and I didn't have any help with holding the wood. I don't have a table saw, so I'm just improvising with my sawhorses there, and I just made sure that I'm not going to cut the sawhorses with my saw as I go across. Like I was saying, I don't have any help holding this, so I caught a really good blooper here. I can't believe how everything just fell like dominoes in front of my eyes. Sometimes you just have to laugh. But now moving on, I'm doing an old carpenter's trick to measure out my circle and trace the circle, which is to tie a string around a pencil at the length that you want your, well, I would say your radius, I believe. So half of your diameter. You're going to tie it to a screw, and that was screwed into the very center of your circle, and then trace it out, and then I'm going to cut it with a jigsaw. I like to give you guys some real-time clips and sounds sometimes so that you can know what it is really like doing this, especially if you're unfamiliar with using these type of tools, just so you can really understand how easy or hard a project is or what to expect if you're going to do it on your own. This is not anything scary. I would say it's even close to being a very beginner thing to do. And the jigsaw does move quite slowly, so I wanted you guys to see that in real time to know that it is going to be something that you slowly let the blade take you around the curve, and it took me maybe about 5 to 10 minutes to get all the way around the circle. Now it's time to turn this circle into a drum shape for the top of that side table. The first way I tried to attach this bender board on the side, it's actually the kickboard that goes underneath your kitchen cabinets. I tried attaching it with my staple gun, but the staples just weren't long enough. So then I switched to a nailer, and then the nails were going straight through that kickboard. So I had to do some adjusting on my nailer to make sure that the depth that the nails were going in was a little more shallow since it's such a thin board. I want to talk about that footboard there that goes on kitchen cabinets. This piece was about $25, which I think is insanely expensive for what it is. And you could probably get a whole sheet of this plywood for that price, but I don't have a table saw, I didn't want to have to wait forever for them to cut it for me. And there's another product out there that is called Bender Board, and it is something that's usually used to do concrete work where you're creating turns and curves in concrete before you pour it. But for some reason, my local Lowe's does not carry Bender Board, so this is what I had to use. I would highly recommend using Bender Board instead because it's like under $5 for the same thing I spent $25 for, and it wasn't even long enough to go all the way around. So when I got to the end here and there was this gap, I used screws to screw the end pieces in because they were a little too rigid to stay in with just the nail gun. And then I put in a little scrap piece on that gap area, screwed that in. I also took a piece of plywood, like a tiny little piece of plywood, and used that as a backer in between the crack to really round out the bottom edges of that crack. Now it is time to really add something special to this side table. I'm going to cover it in concrete. There is this product called Feather Finish, and it is used mostly to level out floors. When you have plywood floors and there's gaps or just unlevel edges, they will use this concrete. It's a very thin concrete, and they use it to just level out an area. But it really sticks to a lot of different types of surfaces because that's what it's used for sticking to concrete or plywood, etc. And I'm making this side table out of plywood, so it should stick very well. And I'm just mixing up enough concrete to be able to handle it well in this little mixer tin that I have. And I'm just putting in a little bit of water at a time until I get this mix into a peanut butter consistency. Once it's about the peanut buttery consistency, it's time to go and apply it. It dries extremely fast, especially if you live somewhere in a drier climate. I was in a very humid climate at the time that I did this, so it actually took an entire day to dry out, but it can take anywhere from 5 minutes to a day to dry out, depending on your weather, how warm it is, how humid it is, and all that jazz. So mine took a whole day on the first day that I did it because it was extremely humid. And then I did the second table the next day, and it dried in half a day. So it really varies quite a bit. It also varies depending on how much water you added to the mix as well. The way that I applied it was just with a plastic spatula, cheapest way possible. You know I love to save money, guys. So I'm smoothing it across, adding a little bit of texture to it as I go, and hoping for the best. This is the very first time I've ever tried anything like this, and I would really love to see other people try this at home on their other projects. I'm actually considering doing a table for my patio because I feel like it would probably weather really well if it was covered in concrete, and I might be able to seal the rest of the table with an outdoor sealer and then have a really cool concrete table, because concrete tables are like $600 to $1,200, where I could make this for like 50. Maybe. If you want to see me try that, let me know in the comments. Once both tables were nice and dry, I went over them and hand sanded off any little parts that were sticking up or rough. It is going to feel really rough if you don't sand it, so I would say that it's a must, that you must sand it down to make it smooth to the touch. Think about it this way: when you have a table that you're going to use, you are going to need to clean it. And I always think of that when I'm doing these pieces. Is this piece going to be something that is easy to clean? So I want it to be smooth enough to where a rag can glide easily on it in order to clean it off if something spills on it, or if the kids get something on there, or if there's a sticky substance. You never know what's going to get on a table. Tables get lots of use. So smooth it out enough so that way you will be able to clean it off with a rag or a paper towel without it snagging. Once that's all done, I'm going to be sealing it with this. It's called an impregnator sealer. It was like $18 for this little bottle here. I don't know why it's that expensive, but it is supposed to prevent the concrete from having any kind of stains go into it. So it's like a grout sealer or a tile sealer, but it's for concrete specifically. And you're going to apply it generously, and it's going to start soaking in right away. I used a sponge brush to do this, and it was really efficient. So I'd highly recommend that purpose or method to get it on there. And once you get it all covered, you're just going to let it sit for about 3 to 5 minutes, and then you're going to dab off the excess with a paper towel or a rag. This stuff says that you can use it indoors, that it's indoors safe, and I've seen people use this concrete and this sealer as countertops, so I imagine it has to be safer indoors for those people that are using it, but it does have a smell to it, so I still would recommend doing it outside because it's hard to get smells out of your house like that. The next thing I'm going to do is apply shellac to the whole base. You guys are probably wondering this whole time, what am I going to do to these wooden legs? Well, that mahogany wood, to me, does not go well with the concrete, so unfortunately, I am going to paint it. I know there's going to be people that are gasping right now, saying, how dare I paint it? But remember, paint can always be removed. If somebody in the future wants to redo this table, they can remove the paint that I applied to it. The shellac will preserve that wood underneath there, but the reason I use shellac is because mahogany is notorious for bleeding through paint. So now I won't have to worry about that stain coming through the paint color that I chose. I chose Black Sands by Dixie Belle, and I'm not sponsored. I bought all these with my own money. I like their paint a lot, and I know that this chalk paint, it's a silk paint. It sticks really well, and it has a sealer already in it. And I'm going to be doing a really unique finish on the base of this because I felt like if I have a unique concrete top, antique bottom, drum side table that used to be a dining table, all these really unique features, then I need to make that base stand out against the concrete. So you'll see what I'm going to do in just a minute here. So you can see how I already started that special finish, but I'm going to take this glaze and go over all the details of the base of this table with this white lime wash glaze. I got it from Lowe's, and you just wipe it on in excess and then wipe off the excess with a paper towel. For the metal feet, I'm going to use Silver Leaf Rub and Buff. You will almost never see Silver Leaf Rub and Buff being used, probably because it's just not in style right now, and it doesn't look like a chrome. It's very silvery. But I wanted to go with silver because the top is gray, the legs are gray. I just thought silver would look better with the gray. But now it's time for me to seal the concrete top. I wanted it to have a shiny finish because I thought that would look best with what I did on the base there, and it'll be a little more durable. But I'm sealing it with some polyacrylic. When I looked online, it said that you need to seal concrete in acrylic sealers, and polyacrylic is acrylic. It's also water-based, and it doesn't stink that bad, so I could do this inside. Before I show the reveal of this table, I'm going to show you how I did the second table because I did them differently. For the second one, I'm priming it with some enamel spray paint in white because I'm doing a lighter color on this table. Also, enamel paints are my favorite. They are extremely durable, they cover really well, and this one dries in 15 minutes, it says. I'm going to also seal all these cracks up with some wood filler. I'm using Dixie Belle's mud. You guys could use any wood filler you want. I just had that on hand, and I'm rubbing it in by hand with my finger, getting into all the grooves and making sure that it's nice and smooth. And once that's dry, I'll go over it with some sandpaper and then clean up that dust with a vacuum. After finishing the first table, I noticed that the concrete is a bit beige once it's done curing and whatnot, so I decided to do a tan or beige color on the second table. This color is called Drop Cloth, I believe, by Dixie Belle. Again, I'm not sponsored. These are just supplies that I have on hand because I like their stuff and I bought myself. I'm painting all the underneath side of each of these tables because I hate how plywood looks, so I definitely want to make sure that I covered that up. And it took me 2 coats of this paint to cover really well, like getting full coverage on the base here, and I barely had enough of this paint to do that. The next thing I'm going to do is add some black glaze to this piece. I haven't ever used this black glaze before, and I'm not really a big fan of it. It wasn't black enough for me. It was kind of a gray color. It ended up looking nice. It didn't look terrible, but I wish it was darker because I really wanted to do the inverted look of the first table. Since I put white lime wash in the grooves, I wanted to do black in the grooves with a glaze on this table so that they were kind of opposites. But it still turned out really beautiful. It just wasn't what I had pictured in my head. And I did the feet in gold since I was doing an opposite look here. I did the first one in silver, so I did the second one in gold, so that way I really show you guys different looks. And I'm hoping that I can create a trend here with these table bases, because I see these old Duncan 5 tables getting thrown away, trashed, left outside because they're too short to use as a real dining table. So I'm hoping that I can inspire you guys to pick up these discarded tables, take the top off. Usually they're mahogany. You can reuse those for just about anything, and repurpose those bases into side tables like this. It looks gorgeous, it looks expensive, it looks really unique, and you don't have to do a concrete top on yours. It was just something that I really wanted to try. You could do wood, you could even do a faux concrete look using wood filler or putty and then paint it to look like concrete. There's so many options. I just was hoping to start a unique trend doing side tables out of these Duncan 5 style table bases. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, not only of just this project that I did, but what you would do if you had table bases like these, or if you already have some that you had no idea what to do with. So let me know in the comments what you think, and if you have any ideas for how you would do your own table bases into side tables, or if you would use them for something totally different. The top of the dining table I'm going to use as a dresser top. I got an old Eastlake dresser that was missing its marble top, and I'm going to use that dining table top as a wooden top for that dresser. I'm completely reusing all the parts of this table into something totally functional, because before there were no dining chairs or modern dining chairs that would fit the height of these old dining tables. I love how both of these tables turned out. My personal favorite is this beige colored one. You guys know I like lighter tone things, and I'm really into beige right now for some reason. But everybody else in my family thought that the other table with the dark gray base was much prettier than this one. So let me know which one you like more in the comments down below. And don't forget to go check out the playlist to see everybody else's Ugly Duckling projects and see how they donated for the spirit of giving. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, don't forget to hit subscribe.